Hello, BookTube. Well, as you can see, our little Vermont holiday has ended. The bean is back on her window seat. I'm back on my fainting couch. The owl is back over my head. We are back from the state of Vermont. And as usual, when we come back from a trip, for those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about, Frida and I spent the last week, the Thanksgiving week, up at the old house in Vermont with Mark Richardson of Richardson Reads, a fellow booktuber, and his wonderful family. And we have returned today, and as usual, I came back to a lot of mail. Not 3 plastic tubs full of mail like would once have happened, but still a pile enough to get us through the afternoon. And it ends in a couple of boxes. So we'll start with the non-box packages and see where we go from there. Michael from Fit to Be Read emailed me and said, is there any chance that you could make your inept fumbling with the opening of the packages even longer? Because I find it so fascinating. But even so, I'm going to try to be expeditious here. And naturally, the first one is fighting me. That's never good. What have we got here? What is this first one? We will assemble a large pile of empty packages and whatnot. Oh, okay, great. All right. A lot of these are going to be 2022, so a lot of them won't be part of my reading for the rest of the year. And this is one of them. This is from January, and this is called "Dear John: Love and Loyalty in Wartime America" by Susan Carruthers. And that is, for those of you who aren't wicked old, that is a torn piece of paper on the cover, and the reference goes back much further than that make a particular helicopter. The reference is to a young woman breaking up with a man via a letter while he is serving overseas. They became known typically as Dear John letters. This has blurbs on the back, including one from Anthony Swafford, who wrote Jarhead, a terrific book. But it doesn't have a pub sheet. So let's see if we can find a description. All right. Are Dear John letters lethal weapons in the hands of men at war? Many U.S. officers, servicemen, veterans, and civilians would say yes. Drawing on personal letters, oral histories, and psychiatric reports, as well as on popular music and movies, the author shows how the armed forces and civilian society have attempted to weaponize romantic love in pursuit of martial ends, from World War II to today. Yet efforts to discipline feeling have frequently failed, and women have often borne the blame. This sweeping history of emotional life in wartime explores the interplay between letter writing and storytelling, breakups and breakdowns, and between imploded intimacy and boosted camaraderie. Okay, that took a turn I didn't expect. But that's not out until January, so I don't have to worry about it. I'm thinking that we've got quite a few of these white envelopes, so I'm thinking that quite a few of these might be finished copies for November and December, which would be good. Those can go straight on the TBR. My TBR while I was in Vermont inevitably strayed towards Mark's million books instead, because I wasn't getting any mail up there. Oh, fantastic. Okay. This is out already. This comes out on December 7th. And I've been looking forward to it. This is by Matthew Aucoin, and it is The Impossible Art, Adventures in Opera. Fantastic. The author composed his first piece of music at age 4. At 11, he left his parents in awe after playing Mozart's The Marriage of Figaro on the piano from start to finish. By the time he was 24, Ellen Gamerman wondered aloud in the Wall Street Journal whether he was the next Leonard Bernstein. Okay, so we're skipping over from 11 to 24, presumably because that time was entirely composed of wedgies, willies, and the dreaded Rear Admiral. I am feeling the urge to give this guy one, and I don't even know. A year later, he was profiled in the New York Times Magazine for the premiere of Crossing, an opera he composed and conducted for the American Repertory Theater. Okay, so this sounds like it's all about him. Is this going to be about opera? Adventures in opera? Well, I guess maybe he could have adventures. We throw around the word prodigy, but this author is as close as they come. Yet his talents aren't limited to music. As an English major at Harvard, he focused on poetry. Today, he reviews opera regularly for the New York Review of Books. With the premiere of his new opera Eurydice, which tells the ancient Greek myth of Orpheus from her point of view, The author saw an opportunity to return to the written word. Very strong John Fish vibes off this thing. You clearly wrote this and think you are the single greatest human being who has ever lived. Maybe you are, but I'd rather have somebody else say it than you. In this book, he describes the creation of Eurydice, which will be at the Metropolitan Opera at the time of the book's publication, and also reflects on the past, present, and future of the art form. If he reflects on the past, present, and future of the art form as distinct from himself, then I'm the czar of all the Russias. To the author, the magic of opera resides in its impossibility, and it is through this lens that he examines the art form. Quote, the operatic ideal, an imagined union of all human senses and all art forms, music, drama, dance, poetry, painting, is itself an impossibility, he writes. This impossibility, this perpetual sense that the real thing is out of reach, is opera's lifeblood. Of course, COVID has brought new meaning to this impossibility, facing the author to take a step back from performing, conducting, and vocal coaching to admire opera from afar. I honestly thought it was going to be to admire himself from afar. I honestly did. And luckily for us, giving him time to write this book. Well, yes, at least there's an upside to COVID. In this book, he reflects on the more than 4 centuries worth of operas that have inspired him most. Part musical autobiography, part user's guide. This debut book offers a view of inside the mind of a musical genius as he presents the joys and challenges of bringing opera to life. Okay, well, I'm looking forward to this. I didn't know, I hadn't experienced quite that description of it. I'm looking forward to it because I deeply, deeply love opera. Deeply, deeply love it. My unfair first impression of this book is that that's not going to be good enough for you to enjoy this book, that you're going to have to enjoy this guy's opera. But maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe it's, after all, if we've learned one thing over the centuries on this channel, it's been you can't judge a book completely by its sell sheet. Whether the author wrote the sell sheet or not, you still have to go in, you still have to dig into the book. And this is a perfect example of something that I can put on the TBR tonight. So let's see what this next one is. A book about opera. Okay, great. Okay, this next one comes out in May. I think that's the latest publication date. This is by Fernando Flores, and it is called, I think, Valley-esque. Difficult to make it out on the requisite incredibly hideous American cover. I guess I always make a joke of that. I always say it's the requisite hideous American cover, but it really does start to look like it's mandated by law. Why would anyone greenlight this? What that is, whatever that is. Why would anyone greenlight it? Anyway, that is not a book cover. That's a psychoanalyst exam. Anyway, it doesn't affect the contents. Let's see. All right, so as you may know, Flores is the author of the beloved debut novel Tears of the Truffle Pig, which was longlisted for the Center for Fictional First Novel Prize and quickly became a cult classic. No one captures the border like Flores, who writes with inimitable energy and style. What border? The border? No one captures the border? Is that the U.S.-Mexican border? Is that what we're supposed to immediately infer? Well, let's carry on here. Sexy, atmospheric, and wrenching, the 14 stories collected in Valley-esque are unlike anything you've ever read. Exploring topics such as immigration, mourning, religion, and capitalism, the author wrangles the most pressing issues of our time with great perceptiveness, but it's the subtlety of his delivery that makes his messages even more impactful. That is not a word. So insert your own word there. In his exploration of the fractured line between Texas and Mexico, yes, okay, so the border there is between the United States and Mexico. Flores navigates the melding of peoples, cultures, and emotions with a nimble hand, presenting a chorus of voices resonant with our current world. Flores' dreamlike narratives ground themselves in strong and compelling characters, shifting seamlessly between their exploits and allowing the identities of the borderland community to take form. His is a queered borderland that resists categorization or stagnancy. It is at once both fantastically and hyper-realistically alive. A queered borderland. Okay. All right. So this comes out in the spring. Sounds like I'm going to need exactly that long to prepare myself mentally, physically, and spiritually for a queered borderland. Compelling characters shifting seamlessly between their exploits and allowing the identities of the borderland community to take form. Okay, well, come May, probably, my very first litmus test for this book is going to be extremely simple. Sometimes litmus tests need to be. My very first test for this will be extremely simple. There are, what, a half a dozen stories in here? Are there any white people who aren't Hitler? That'd be my first litmus test. I'll have many others. How is the borderland described? What is, how ham-handedly or otherwise are politics brought in? But I'll mainly want to know, are people's moral values here assigned by their skin tone? That'll be the first litmus test. We'll see. If it doesn't pass that, I don't think it's going to pass any of the others. But that's a long way off. That's a long, long way off. Don't have to worry about it for a while. So let's just move on. That's the last of these white packages. Oh, great. Fantastic. All right. This comes out in late March of next year. I'm not going to be touching any of these things. I'll read the opera book, probably in genuflection. but I don't. None of the others. I bet that a lot of these, I bet there'll be hardly anything that I add to the TBR tonight. This is due in late March, and it's by an author I know well. This is Until the Last of Me by Sylvain Neuvel, who has written a lot of science fiction that I really like. So let's see here. This is going to be a hardcover, and it's the latest in the Take Them to the Stars trilogy, which began in 2021 with A History of What Comes Next, showing that truth is stranger than fiction. It isn't. The author weaves a sci-fi thriller reminiscent of Blake Crouch and Andy Weir, blending a fast-moving, darkly satirical look at the 1960s space race with an exploration of the amorality of progress and the nature of violence. This book is, the first rule is the most important. Always run, never fight. For generations, Mia's family has shaped human history to push them to the stars. The year is 1968, and she is on the cusp of destiny, poised to launch the first humans into space. But she cannot take them to the stars, not quite yet. Her adversary is at her heels. The future of the planet is at stake, and obeying the first rule is no longer an option. For the first time in 100 generations, Mia's family will have to choose to stand their ground, risking not only their bloodline, but the future of the human race. This book is a darkly satirical thriller, a meticulously researched work of historical fiction, and an action-packed adventure as seen through the eyes of the women who sacrifice all to make progress possible, and the men who are determined to stop them. Feeling that was coming. Okay. All right, we are off to a rocky start for this mail haul. All right. Okay. So, okay. A fast-moving, darkly satirical look at the 1960s space race with an exploration of the amorality of progress and the nature of violence. This is an adventure seen through the eyes of the women who sacrifice all to make progress possible and the men who are determined to stop them. Okay. So what's your motivation for stopping the heroes? It's that bit between your legs. Okay, is that interesting? No. No. So you show up on a page. How do I determine where on the vast moral spectrum you lie? How your gray shadings are morally, personally, motivation-wise? I don't have to struggle at all. I just need to check the bits between your legs. That's all. That's all I need to do. Also, I might point out in that pub sheet, the space race and humanity reaching for the stars is portrayed as a heroic endeavor. It was entirely conducted by men. I know that's an awkward historical fact, but nevertheless. Anyway, we're going to move on. We're going to hope for an Erasmus biography. That'd be great. He was Europe's greatest monster. That's what I'll get. If I get such a book, that's what I'll get. Let's see what this next one is. Okay, this is also May. Good Lord. This is another book from May, and this isn't the advanced copy here isn't going to help you any because it's totally raw. It's not what the book is going to look like. It's what the inside of the book is going to look like. This is The Perfect Golden Circle by Benjamin Meyers, who's an award-winning author and journalist, and this comes out in late May. So, again, not an interest of mine right at the moment. This is a captivating and slyly witty novel about the power of beauty to heal trauma and fight power. Set in 1989, so more historical fiction. Lots and lots of historical fiction here. Set in 1999 against the backdrop of a long decade of mass unemployment and social upheaval, traumatized ex-soldier Calvert is not set against the decade. He's in the decade, but he's not. The story is what's set against that decade. An affable but chaotic Redbone are on a mission to finish the most stunning and original crop circle ever conceived, the honeycomb double helix. But when their anonymity is threatened by international media attention and law enforcement, the unlikely duo must race against time to complete their project before harvest season begins, to try to make an epic crop circle. Moving and exhilarating, The Perfect Golden Circle recalls apocalyptic visions of William Blake, Alan Moore, and, say it with me now, Cormac McCarthy. Okay. All right, well... Okay, so this is going to be a hardcover in late May, and you're just going to have to Google it to tell what it looks like. This book just has blurbs and a whole bunch of reader information, so that's not going to help at all. But it doesn't matter to me anyway. It's long away. There's an unguessable chasm between here and there. So let's just move on to this next one, which is a hardcover, so it might be something more achievable for the present day. Yes, it is. Okay, this comes out in mid-December. This is by Peter Stam. It's a collection of short stories called It's Getting Dark. And it comes with the Douay Bible in terms of material here. I do not need any of this. Not any of this. Let's see if we can find something about the book. Okay, here we go. So Swiss book prize-winning author Peter Stam brings his singular talent to his first collection of short stories in a decade. My. Okay. A teenager plans a bank robbery with a squirrel mask in one story, and then in another story, a woman annoyed that her husband keeps taking work calls during their vacation abandons him at a snowy rest stop. In another story, a man tests his relationship in a modern-day mashup of You've Got Mail and the Pina Colada song. Now, I wonder how many of you will know the Pina Colada song. It's a terrific song. At times delightful, absurd, and heartbreaking, each of the dozen tales is distinct, but ultimately form a precise and eerily familiar rendering of the contemporary human psyche. With prose that's blunt and precise, that cannot happen, Stam cuts to the core of his characters, each facing a decision that will alter the course of their lives. He explores the spaces between reality and daydreams, between choices his characters make and the infinite possibilities that are lost with every decision. Whether it's a woman contemplating a sculpture of herself or a middle-aged man realizing he's fading from reality, readers will recognize pieces of themselves in these stories. For fans of Raymond Carter, might be a little typo there, and Lauren Groff, It's Getting Dark starkly peels back the layers of what it means to be human. Okay, so this was translated by Michael Hoffman, who's done a million. We have seen his name as a translator a million times, and he's reliable. The books that he translates a million things. He must be one of the busiest translators in the world. And when you read a Michael Hoffman translation, you do not feel that the translator is getting in the way. Whether you know the original language or not, you feel as if you are reading what the author wrote, which is terrific. That's a terrific skill in a translator. All right, so let's see what this next one is. Let's just keep moving on here. Checking all of these things for any relevant paperwork. Okay, this next one is from February, so again, I don't need to think about it, but you can think about it. You can certainly think about it. This is by Coco Meyers. It's a novel. It's called Cleopatra and Frankenstein. Yeah, it comes out in early February. And it's a debut. It's Coco Meyers' debut. Great. Okay. And the book follows the impulsive marriage of Cleo, a young British artist studying painting in New York, and Frank, a successful advertising executive and New York native, after they meet by chance in an elevator on New Year's Eve. The story that follows their fateful meeting is not only about Cleo and Frank's hasty green card marriage, 2-decade age gap, and tumultuous love affair. It also deftly explores the ways their union affects an unforgettable cast of their closest friends and family. Take Quentin, Cleo's best friend, who struggles to embrace his gender queerness in the wake of Cleo's marriage, believing they were not those kind of people who get married, either one of them. Or Frank's charismatic younger sister, Zoe, who turns to a sugar daddy dating site to financially support herself after Frank cuts her off to provide for another young artist, Cleo. Okay, so Frank was subsidizing. He was supplying money for his younger sister Zoe, and cuts her off in order to divert that money to his new wife, who's his younger sister's age. With lucid examinations of self-identity, queerness, financial independence, mental illness, feminism, and infidelity, Cleopatra and Frankenstein is an aptly paced story that stays with you long after the final page. Full of heartache, compulsively readable chapters, and spot-on humor, Cleopatra and Frankenstein is the perfect novel for anyone curious about a modern love story that dives headfirst into the trials and marriages and shows what it means to come of age in and perhaps out of New York City. Okay, so it's a debut novel. I'm well on record on this channel as loving debut novels. I will have, of course, a litmus test question here. I know this is sounding like a broken record, but it's not my fault. These books are what's causing it. My litmus test question here will not be, it's not only Frank. Frank is marrying someone his daughter's age and impoverishing his daughter in order to do it. So I don't think we have any doubts about what he's like. My litmus test question for this book will be, when I'm reading this book, it's not a short thing either. It's almost 400 pages long. When I'm reading this book, just going through, exploring the story with the author, and I encounter a heterosexual male character who is not Frank. Frank's already a lost cause. If I encounter a heterosexual male character, is he going to be evil? Is he going to be Hitler? Are they all going to be Hitler? So that you finish the book and you think, okay, well, there's the queer friend, and there are all the women, and and then there are the bad guys. That's going to seem really simplistic to me. Maybe that won't happen. Maybe I'll have to hope that Coco Meyers does not put me through that. But I don't have to worry about it for a while, so we will see. Considering I am increasingly getting the impression in late 2021, and I think it will only become more intense in 2022, that if you don't write a narrative like that, your book won't get published. Your agent won't take it, and even if your agent did take it, she couldn't sell it to any of the commissioning editors at any major publishing houses, all of whom are women, and apparently think that is the current trend. Let's write that way. Let's get our revenge for having gone through the hell of the events in The Handmaid's Tale. And if you raise your hand and say, well, okay, but The Handmaid's Tale is fiction, the events didn't really happen, good luck. Good luck. Your house will be bombed. This next one's really big, though. So what is... Oh, fantastic. Okay. This is also something I'm looking forward to. No paperwork on it. But this is huge. Gigantic novel. It's coming out in April in this country, but it's out already in a lot of parts of the world, and it is M. M. It's a gigantic novel about Mussolini by Antonio Scurati. An epic historical novel that chronicles the birth and rise of fascism in Italy, witnessed through the eyes of its founder, the most terrifyingly charismatic figure who would become one of the most notorious dictators of the 20th century, Benito Mussolini. It is 1919, and the Great War has ravaged Europe is over. In Italy, the people are exhausted, tired of the political class, tired of vague promises, inept moderates, and the agonizing machinations of a democracy that has failed ordinary citizens. Time for somebody to make Italy great again. While elite leaders have sat idly by, achieving nothing, one outsider, the director of a small opposition newspaper and a tireless political agitator, is electrifying the masses, promising hope for a demoralized nation hungry for change. A former socialist leader ousted by his own party, he is a drifter who knows what it feels to be lost. His voice speaks for the misfits and the outcasts. He is a protector of those who are forgotten. He is Benito Mussolini, and he would have loved that description. And soon Italy and the world will be forever remade. In this novel, the author tells the story of fascism from within the mind of its founder, the man known to his followers as Il Duce. Steeped in historical detail and interspersed with period documents and sources, this masterful saga explores the seductive power of nationalism and idolatry, revealing how authoritarianism took hold and a nation bent to the will of one ruthless strongman. Provocative and resonant, M is a chilling reminder that the past is never gone and that it holds urgent lessons for today. And this is translated from the Italian by Anne Milano Appel. And I have heard a lot about this. I've heard lots and lots about this from people, from friends who've read it already in Italian, and from people who are eager to see it here. Mainly the people who are eager to see it here, mainly because of that last line. A chilling reminder that the past is never gone. That is entirely true, because in 2016, the United States elected a Mussolini-esque, jut-jawed, moronic buffoon who wanted to be an authoritarian leader, and who, when he was denied that opportunity, incited a violent insurrection to overthrow the government by force. Something that Mussolini ended up doing successfully. It didn't succeed at the beginning of this year here in this country, but it is certainly going to succeed, because no one who did that has been held accountable. Idiotic foot soldiers have been held accountable and given disgraceful light sentences. But the people who did it, including Donald Trump himself, who incited the riot himself, and who sat by eagerly watching on TV, hoping that it would succeed, hoping that by the end of the day he would be in an armored limousine on his way to the Capitol to be sworn in illegally. There's not even any thought, there's not even any talk of holding him accountable legally for inciting an insurrection to overthrow the United States government. Instead, the talk on both sides of the aisle is that, yeah, he'll probably be the front runner for the Republicans in 2024. Madness. And a nation that descends into that kind of madness deserves to be overcome. It deserves to be overturned. We'll just see how the people who think they like that like it when it really happens. When they have to present a salute every time they walk into a room that has a picture of Donald Trump hanging on the wall. And if they don't, someone in the room will inform on them. The main question that I've had about this thing, I'm very eager to get to it. This is going to be a strain, but I'm not going to read this in 2021. But the main question I have about it is the obviously sort of sympathetic light that it portrays. Obviously, if it's told through Mussolini's own thoughts, then it will be semi-sympathetic. And my main question is the author allowing an ironic reading of that? Or is this just a totally subversive work of fiction where you have to supply the irony because the author is not supplying any of it? If so, if he's writing that kind of a book, well, then my hat's off to him, because that's going to get him brochetted in the press. I don't know, actually, now that I think about it, I've heard all about this from friends, but I have not searched Italian critical reactions to this. I should probably do that. I can at least do that in 2021, but that's great. That's fantastic. Can't wait to see what it's like. Then we have the boxes. The first one is from Amazon. I haven't ordered anything from Amazon. It has the this is one of the boxes that they're sending everything out in to advertise their series Wheel of Time. The Wheel of Time series on Amazon, an adaptation of Robert Jordan's series of fantasy novels, was high on the watch list up in Vermont. We watched all 4 of the episodes that had arrived. What is this? What is this? What have we got? It's not a book. It's definitely not by me. Okay. Oh, I think this might have been sent by one of you. I think one of you emailed me about this. Okay, so the first item is a little light. It's a little light that you can wrap around things in order to illuminate hard to illuminate spots. Probably because I've been going on insufferably on this channel about how the light is constantly bothering me. And the next thing here, I think, is a portable charger, inflatable light and mobile charger. I'm going to have to examine these things and see what they actually do. 2 little lights. I wonder if I'd be able to use these. I wonder if they actually make a difference with any kind of video that I make. I'm not. I'll have to check and see if they can serve some other purpose. If they can illuminate a spot for reading while I eat, or something like that, fine. Then that's worth exploring. If they're only for making videos, it's unlikely that I will pay them more than a few days' attention, because I don't want to add tech to this channel. The more things, when I want to make a video, the more things I have to think about, the less likely I am to make the video, and I don't want to do that. So, interesting. All right, a portable light that wraps around any kind of pole, and I assume that's nice and prehensile. So, might be possible to set up something around here. We shall see. We shall see. They don't go into Steve here. And then we have the final box here, which is priority mailbox. So it might be something from one of you, which would be bad. That would be a violation of rule number 1. But let's see what this is. Oh, oh, okay. Well, all right. This is most welcome, and it is a December release, December 11th. This is served cold in paperback. This is a horror tube anthology. This is made by a bunch of writers, some of whom have booktube channels that you probably watch. Cameron Chaney, Cam Wolfe, Regina St. Clair, the guiding spirit behind this. Mike DeFrench used to have a booktube channel called Pints and Paperbacks. But another person on the table of contents here is yours truly. I wonder if I can show you the table of contents. So this is the paperback. No copyright stuff. No. So, well, anyway, this is the paperback. Now, I'll leave a link to Serve Cold. There's a link already up on Amazon for you to pre-order the ebook of this, which will, if you know your Amazon pre-order, it'll just show up on your device on December 11th. But there is also going to be a paperback available. It'll look just like this, only it won't have the not for resale thing along the sign there. And only the way that Amazon does these things, you can't pre-order the paperback. You have to order it when it lists on the 11th. No idea why that is, but this was a great honor, an enormous amount of fun for me to be involved in. I wrote the foreword for this, but also, more importantly, I have a short story in here. For the first time in well over a decade, I have a short story in an anthology volume. The last time was for an Australian literary journal called The Lifted Brow. That was a long time ago. And here is a new story. So you've got all these experienced hands and also me in here. And I'm very happy to, I guess it can serve as my announcement that there will be a paperback for those of you who want these things on your shelf instead of on your tablet. And I have a whole bunch of ideas to incentivize the paperback purchase. A whole bunch of ideas. When we get a little bit closer to the date, I'll have to figure out what they are, and then I'll start rolling them out. But how wonderful to hold this in my hand. Fantastic. Fantastic. So this is a sort of a proof that I'll have to that I'll want to go through and see if maybe I notice anything. I'm sure that this is a proof that is early enough so that there are things in here that are correctable if there's something wrong. But great. That is what Served Cold is going to look like in mid-December. This is a collection of horror stories all set around a theme of cold, whether it be winter in a small New England town or cold of outer space or you name it. The horror stories here are built around a theme of cold. And a lot of them are very good. I'm not saying mine necessarily, although mine is set on the craters of the moon, of Earth's moon. So not a terrestrial horror story at all, but fantastic. I'm so happy to have this in my hand. Great. I will leave a link to Served Cold on Amazon. Feel free to pre-order the ebook. But if, actually, since the ebook is, I think, $4, something like that, feel free to pre-order the ebook anyway, even if you plan on buying this thing. You're still making out like a bandit. But the paperback is going to be available on the 11th. And I have a whole bunch of ideas about that launch day. But anyway, that is our homecoming mail here. Not I would ordinarily have had to split a video like this in two or something like that, but instead, it's a neat little pile, most of which I will not look at. I will file it away for 2022, but I won't look at it. There are only a handful of books here that I will actually read tonight, too, in fact, I think. We have M. Who knows what kind of critical reception this is going to get. It stands to reason that in every single review, Donald Trump's name will be mentioned. Which is kind of ironic, because he's pathologically self-absorbed, but he doesn't read book reviews, so he's never going to see that. And even if he did, he would be infuriated. He might know, someone might tell him about the New York Times if they review it, but he's not going to like it. He already doesn't like. He holds himself, he inhabits deeply inside a delusional bubble about the nature of his own presidency, and does not like to hear, flies into a rage if someone says, well, you know, history is certainly going to remember you as the man who tried to destroy American democracy. History, you know, there's Hitler, there's Mussolini, there's Trump. He's not going to like that at all. Yet the comparisons are so multiple, right down to the language that his in-house pet Nazi Stephen Miller used to use, right down to the language. There's no way that history is not going to draw that comparison unless history is controlled by Trumpists who make it illegal for you to write that kind of thing and who kill the people who do. But anyway, I'm looking forward to this. I won't do it right away. But then we have Cleopatra and Frankenstein. We have It's Getting Dark, short stories by Peter Sam, and that is one of the ones I will read tonight. We have The Perfect Circle by Benjamin Meyers, in which at least one plot involves two characters trying to create the most epic crop circle. Then Until the Last of Me by Sylvain Neuvel, who did those novels about a little girl who finds a giant robot buried in the ground. Then Valley-esque by Fernando Flores, a queered view of the border between Texas and Mexico. We have The Impossible Art, all about one prodigy's adventures in the world of opera. And we have Dear John, Love and Loyalty in Wartime America, which again doesn't come out until next year. So quite a bit of this does not come out until next year. That's okay. That's just fine by me. And we also have Served Cold, a horror tube anthology in which I not only had the honor to write the introduction, but also in which I have a story. And one of you mysteriously sent lighting equipment for this channel, of all channels. Talk about pearls before swine. We'll see if I can understand the devices, first of all, and if I can figure out a way to use them that will actually work and be as convenient as touching a button. Okay, baby. Speaking of touching buttons, hi, little girl. She was so good in Vermont. She screamed at everybody. She screams at you. She wants you to pet her. But she was still so good. And not just in the house, but everywhere we went. She went everywhere with me. Every shop, every store, every bookstore, and she was wonderful the whole time. And she's so cute that people just instantly love her. So it was delightful. She's going to have a little bit of adjusting to do. You are a little bit of adjusting to do. She'll manage. So there you go. As I was saying, the only way that I know that I will use this light thing is if it's literally push button easy. If it takes any kind of work at all, I won't do it. So we'll see. I will examine it. I'll look it up online and research it a little. I'm very much grateful for the person who sent it. But that's it. That is the homecoming mail. So I'll wrap this up for now, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.